Hey there everybody, Chris Renshaw here again with Obsessive Comics Disorder, here with another D&D review for you guys. Like I said, this month I'll be talking a whole bunch about D&D 5th edition and all the good stuff come out. So today we are going to be focusing only on the starter set. I know I talked about it a lot in the overall review of what should you get with 5th edition, but today we're going to talk about what is the D&D starter set, what comes in it, what's all included. So let's jump right into that. So inside the box, which looks beautiful by the way, the whole presentation of this, everything inside of here is great. I'm just going to say that right off the top. Everything inside of here is great. So first thing you'll see are dice. So get these up closer to the camera. You have everything you need dice-wise to play D&D. You've got your D6. You've got a D, let's see, it's a D12. There's a D8, D10, D4, and of course, the D20. This, of all the dice, this is the one that's going to be rolled the most. And so that's everything dice-wise you need to run a D&D campaign at its bare minimum. Now, of course, you're going to want to have, if you're playing with a lot of people, you're going to be basically passing these dice all around. So I will say that if you have other dice, you know, like I've got this nice set of a whole bunch of other dice. I got plenty of D20s and all sorts of stuff in here. You're going to want to have some of that. If you've never played D&D before, you have no idea what you're going to do about role-playing, stick with just the dice in there. But if you're a gamer at all, if you've been around the block on this a little bit, grab your other dice. I know you got them somewhere. So what's the next thing you got? Next thing we've got in here is the starter set rulebook. This is basically the player's handbook light, if you will. It is 32 pages of everything you need to know in order to run this game. Now, when I mean run, I don't mean the adventure specific stuff. So I'm talking rules only, how to play, you know, what is the role-playing, what is a role-playing game, what is combat, how do turns work, initiative, all this stuff. If all this stuff sounds like gobbledygook for you, if you have no idea what I'm saying, this is where you need to go first. And at least one person in your group needs to have read this book or the player's handbook, which I've got back over there. Somebody needs to at least have a good idea of the rules, and so they can be able to explain it. Preferably the DM, because if the DM doesn't know what they're doing, then they're me, basically. But, so, inside, like I said, it's beautiful. There's no skimping going on here. Sure, it's just a little floppy book, but, you know, the artwork looks amazing. They explain why there's so many different kinds of dice. So you've got everything you need. Full art pages depicting epic fantasy battles. It looks great. Just, you know, combat, damage, adventuring, weapons, items you're going to get. And then in the back here, you got your magic, you got your spells. In here, there's two types of spellcasters in here. And we'll get to this in a little bit. There's a cleric and there's a wizard. So as far as magic users, you've got all the spells that you have as playing a cleric or a wizard. They've got them briefly listed right here. And then as you scroll through here, as you flip through here, they've got all the breakdowns for each and every spell here. What it is, what level it is, its, you know, range, components, duration, and a little blip about what it actually does. So everything you need to understand how to play is in here. Now, before I jump into the adventure, we'll skip past that, and you've got your character sheets. You come with, I believe it's 5 character sheets. Yes. So you have 5 character sheets. You have a rogue, you have a wizard, a cleric, and 2 fighters, and 2 different fighters. And they all come, and they're very detailed. They're pre-planned out characters, so you don't have to do anything. You can pick up these characters and just go right away. They've even got, not only do they have all your stats pre-planned out, they've got like all the background about your characters just deep in here. There's a lot of time and effort put into these basic characters. Like, for instance, we'll just talk about the rogue here. The rogue is a criminal background. It's a halfling. Personality traits, I never have a plan, but I'm great at making things up as I go along. Also, the best way to get me to do something is to tell me I can't do it. Ideals, people, I'm loyal to my friends, not to ideals. There's bond. Colleen Alderlead. I'm probably butchering this, but who cares? My aunt has a farm in Fandolin. I always make sure to give her some of my ill-gotten gains. And then the flaws, the kind of the darks, or the downside to your character, something for you to roleplay, is that your aunt must never know the deeds that you did as a member of the Red Brands. And so you've got all your stats, all your abilities, and then on the back, they've got like what it means to be a halfling, how to play a halfling, what are some halfling names, some background on the story, and kind of like your personal goals and where your character's coming from. And then just kind of a progression track of as you level up, what is that going to do for this character? So there's a lot of stuff in these sheets to get you. So if you've never played any role-playing games before, you can read through this and get a, oh, okay, so he's that kind of character. And that'll help you out, especially with all the new things that come with 5th edition, such as inspiration that rewards you for playing to those characters. So lastly, what comes in the box is this thick book right here. It's a pretty hefty book. And what comes in here, this is your adventure. This is for the DM's eyes only. Nobody else. If you're playing in this game, do not look in this book. Don't look in here at all. It's bad. No. So what is in here, and this is all the detail, the nitty, the gritty into everything that's going on in that adventure. There's maps. Like I said, the artwork is great. So you got detailed maps kind of talking about, and it's gridded out, so you get an idea of kind of scale if you're coming from like that 4th edition background. Then they've got breakdowns for each and every encounter. If you flip to the back, where is it? They got back here. They've got some items that you could pick up along the way. Back here, they've got all the monsters. So in an encounter, they'll be like there are 2 goblins here, so you need to flip back here. All right, goblins. I know they got 7 hit points and armor class of whatever. So like I said, DM's eyes only. Nobody else should be looking at this book, but it's everything you need. This adventure right here, there's a lot of stuff. It's a 4-part adventure. This should take your characters, these characters that are in here. Now, I assume that this game is compatible. I have not tried it, I have not tried this with created characters, but I would assume that it would work in addition to these pre-planned. So if you've got maybe a 6th person that wants to play, you could potentially, and if you've got the guide or you've got the basic rules, you could possibly gem up another character and run it in here just fine, and it would probably add in the mix fine. But this right here, this box set has everything you need to take characters from level 1 to 5. And that's the first thing I have to say about this book, is I was blown away at how much content is in that cardboard box. In this box, right here, this box, there is so much stuff to get you started into playing D&D. I played it over the week. I played it a couple weekends ago with a couple of friends, and we barely scratched the surface. We got up to level 2, but there was still only we only played through part 1, and that alone took us forever to get through. And I don't mean that in it's a long drudge. It was vibrant and it was exciting the whole time. The encounters are built extremely well. They're able to get people in there, get into the action, but it's also not a railroaded adventure. That was one thing, if you've heard me talk about in the past about the Edge of Empire beginner box, is it's very hold your hand, walk you through kind of thing, where you're going to do this, and then you're going to do this, and then you're going to do this. Maybe if they do this, you're still going to go to, it's going to get you A to B to C to D to E. In this adventure, you might go A to C, or you might go A to B to C to D, or might A, C, E. You know, there's all these jumping on points to where if stuff happens, if your characters decide to go away, maybe they don't even decide to go explore that trail that they found over there. Maybe they don't even see the trail, and that whole adventure's not even done then. Then you could, as a DM, you've got the creative freedom that you could find something that happens in the town that the adventurers go to that lead them back towards that goblin cave, or you ignore that goblin cave altogether. It's up to you. It's the way the game plays, and I think that's really good. That's really good, and I think it's a very big testament to the system and to the design of these adventures. Like I said, this will get you up to level 5. There's 4 parts. If you played only for 2 to 3 hours of D&D every week using nothing but the adventures in here, you've easily got at least a month, maybe even a month and a half, depending on how your group is and doing stuff, month and a half worth of stuff of game time or game playing and in D&D adventuring just in this one box. And this box is what? $20, $25? That is a huge bargain, especially if you're anyone trying to get into Dungeons and Dragons and 5th edition. So, like I said, that is awesome. That's mostly the good things about this. Now, bad things about this, there's not a whole lot. I will say that up front. And some of the problems I have with this are related to 5th edition as a whole. And if you want more about that, you should probably go check out the Boards and Swords podcast. I talk a little bit more about 5th edition in the recent episode, number 27, I believe. But basically, one of the big problems with 5th edition is the magic system, as it goes back to the 3.5 way of doing things, where wizards have all these spells that they can prepare from, clerics have all these spells they can prepare from, and there's only one way of looking at those spells, and that's in that back of that rule book I showed you. So that's the only way that you've got 2 players, you got a cleric, you got a wizard, more than likely, both of which are magic users, both of which need to see that one book, and it just really slogs the game down because one person needs it to figure out their spells and how their spells work. Then the next person needs it as soon as that turn's done. And then the first person needs it again to possibly do it on their turn. It's kind of confusing. I wish that Wizards could have gone the extra mile and maybe made copies of those spell listings and put it as extra appendices, just extra pieces of paper you could hand out to your players. Play, all right, cleric, here's all your cleric spells. Wizard, here's all your wizard spells. Then they've got it. They've each got their own example, and then it's done. So I will say this is an easily remediable problem. If you get this, and if you're playing this with a group of people, make copies of those spell lists and it's only a couple of pages, but believe me, it will make games so much quicker. It's so much easier. So that's my really big beef with the adventure. Now, another thing to keep apparent, this isn't exactly necessarily a bad thing, but this adventure doesn't hold anything back. It will smack your players in the face if they're not paying attention. Like, within the first 2 die rolls, I killed the cleric. I ran the session. I killed the cleric within the first 2 die rolls just because he wasn't paying attention to something and he got sneak attacked. So you need to warn players go in that it's not, especially if you're coming from 4th edition to where your characters are basically gods, this game will be a huge slap in the face for them because your players will die, they will go down, and the party's going to have to be like, oh crap, we only have a limited number of heals. Who do we heal? How do I keep myself from taking damage? Maybe I should hide. Maybe that's a good idea. So that's what I got to say about the D&D starter set. Like I said in the intro video, if you have any interest in 5th edition, and you've got the money, you've got the resources, I definitely recommend you get this. Like I said, there is a lot inside this one little box. Easily a month of straight playing Dungeons and Dragons. So a lot of great information in here. And if you like this, then there's plenty more where that came from. You got the player's handbook, the DMG, the monster manual, all that stuff. I've got reviews for all of that stuff coming. So keep an eye right here on this channel. And I will have reviews for all of that stuff. And coming up next week, just to give you a tease, we have, oh yeah, the Player's Handbook, the PHB, the Alpha and Omega, if you will, of the 5th edition set. So we're going to dive right into that next time. But in the meantime, make sure you head over to the my main YouTube channel, youtube.com/OCDcast, and hit subscribe so you don't miss out on any of these videos coming up. Or you can head over to my main site, OCDcast.com, where you can see everything, including the Boards and Swords podcast that I do, where I talk about all the gaming that I'm into, both tabletop RPGs, board games, card games, Magic the Gathering, Dungeons and Dragons, all of it you can find over at boardsandswords.com. If you want to talk to me, you can comment on this video down below. You can also follow me on Twitter. I'm at Chris the Prof. You can also find me on Facebook at facebook.com/obsessive comics disorder. That's all I've got for you guys this week. Come back next time where we'll dive into that player's handbook and we'll talk about all the great stuff that's still to come with D&D 5th edition. See you guys next time.